I'm Whitney.
And I'm Melissa.
We are podcast addicts,
Obsessed with true crime,
winos,
boy moms,
and both live in Texas.
We met about 2 years ago and became best friends almost instantly.
When we discovered our obsession with true crime and all that it encompasses,
we decided to bring our love of podcast and wine to you.
Season 1 will take us on a state-by-state journey as we discuss the atrocities around America.
We will be covering everything from cults to kidnappings
to murder and all that falls in between.
This is Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet.
This episode contains content that may be disturbing or sensitive to listeners.
It's what everyone's been waiting for, what
Yes.
we've hyped up like crazy.
We are finally here. Finally here.
Yes, it seems like we've been working on this a while.
Oh yeah, many nights, many days, many nights, many evenings, many whatever you want to call it, many bottles of wine. I don't know how you would quantify the time we've spent on this case, because it's been more than hours. I can say that.
Yes, definitely. Not like our normal. I usually rough it like 10 hours a week is what I spend on the podcast, researching, recording, all of that. This, much more, which definitely we hyped this up enough. This was our deep dive. It is a two-parter, so you guys know you're only going to get the first half of it today.
Yeah, so don't be upset when you're left hanging at the end of this episode. It was too much to put into one week's worth. Too much.
Yes, definitely too much. I mean, I think this is going to be actually longer than our normal episodes where we do two cases and chit chat through half of it. So,
I know. I almost wonder if we should have made this 3 episodes, but we're going to squeeze it into 2. We're going to put it in 2.
We'll see let's see how we get going. If we end up at the 2-hour mark and we're like, okay, we have to cut it off.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think it's going to be good. I'm very excited for our listeners to have the first deep dive that we're doing.
Me too. It started, we started planning for this, back in, let's say, December? It started in November when we met Ashley and Rachel at CrimeCon. So if y'all don't know, Melissa and I were at CrimeCon in November, and it was all virtual because the world was still shut down then, like it is now. We met Ashley from the company Uncovered when she jumped into our podcast room. So we had this like super cool podcast area that you can come into. It's kind of like a breakout room in Zoom, if you know anything about Zoom, that was dedicated to just us, and anyone could come in and out and meet with us and chat with us. And we talked with Ashley for a little bit about potentially meeting up for a coffee date the next week, obviously via Zoom because we are all over the world. They're in, I think they're in Indiana, Illinois. They're up north somewhere.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah. She told us. I'm sorry, I forgot.
They're Eastern Standard Time, whatever. So somewhere.
Maybe they're in Indiana. I don't know. They're somewhere up there. I think it was an I state. Anyway, we had a coffee date and it was great. I was super excited that any company was interested in partnering with us or talking with us about a potential partnership for a case, let alone a company like Uncovered. That was a big one for me. Their mission is to use the power of collective impact to bring peace to families of murdered or missing people by combining data, technology, and the wisdom of the community. So, that's a very fancy mission statement, which is amazing. Yeah. They do awesome things. They are internet sleuths. They help solve cases. They help so many people. Yeah. So,
and they all bring something to the table. I don't even know how many there are. It's a group of people. You've got some forensic people. You've got some IT people. It's just, I almost think there has to be some kind of graphic designer people because
for sure.
What they bring together is amazing.
It's beautiful. So they are big on visuals. They put together these visual boards so that you can see the crime that's happening and try to help fill in the holes and the gaps and help solve cases, to bring closure to families. So it really stuck with Melissa and I after we met with them after our little coffee date. So their mission kind of works hand in hand with our see something, say something philosophy. And it was just awesome. So we told them kind of who we were as a podcast, what the goal was as a company, and we really decided to partner on something. We were in the end letter state, so we're like, hey, there's plenty of states still out there. We'll come together on something soon. The more and more Melissa and I got talking, we're like, hey, we might want to get some scheduling together and get our shit together so that we can plan accordingly for these things. And we were like, you know what? We're in Texas. We've not covered Texas yet. What do they have in Texas? Let's see if we can partner for Texas. And they threw out Brandon Lawson's case. They said they were in the beginning stages of researching it, that they had met with a few people and they were building their visuals. And the light bulb kind of flickered in my mind because I had heard of the case and I knew very little about it at the time, but it brought up some memories of I'd heard something about it. So that of course intrigued me and I wanted to pursue it further. I know Melissa heard about it differently. She had done a little bit more research than I had on it. So it was just exciting for me to kind of have that light bulb go off and be like, hey, there's something there. Let's pursue it.
Yeah, exactly. We said, hey, we want to do Texas. They said, oh, have you guys heard of this case? And I was like, immediately like, absolutely. The Brandon Lawson case, I had first stumbled upon it on True Crime Garage, which happens to be my favorite podcast out there, besides Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet, of course. But they did a two-parter, I think, back in like 2017 of Brandon Lawson. And I don't know if you guys have listened to them, but it's Captain and Nick, and they're always been like my go-to podcast, especially if I need to fall asleep at night. And not that they're boring by any means, but I know I won't get too scared. It's not very graphic. They're very informative. They have some good banter. This is not a public, I'm not a spokesperson for them or anything. I just love that. Hey, if after you're done listening to ours, go check out theirs. But so they covered it. I was kind of baffled. Of course, this case, once we get into it, you'll see why. I was baffled, just like thousands of people that have heard of this case, that listen to it. You don't know why or how. Like, there's not one question that is essentially answered. The whole situation did not make sense. Couldn't wrap my brain around it. So of course it stuck with me. And you guys all know that I'm more of the missing person, the ones that like aren't solved. I don't know what happened. Those ones stay with me a bit more than the other ones. It's, that's just how I am. So I think it's because
I think it's because you're a hopeful person. Like, you're hoping that you can help
yes.
solve that one, or that there's still, because it's there's still questions out there, nothing has been answered, you're hoping to find those answers. I think that's what intrigues you so much.
Yes. Or that there's hope that their loved one is still alive, or, just those questions answered. I hate the questions. I want to know. And I think I'm like a nosy person, essentially. And I'm always like, okay, well, what happened? I need to know the facts. So I did dig in a little bit to this case a few years ago. I looked into it and stuff like that, and I happened to join, there's a Facebook group that's called Help Find Brandon Lawson. Great page. Anybody needs to go. It gives updates. It's kind of like his family's place where they put things. So I had joined that group. Just if any updates, I didn't want to miss anything if something had happened, if they did find him. Of course, once you're in 20 of those groups, it's so hard to look back. However, once Uncovered mentioned Brandon Lawson, I was like, hey, wait, let me go look at this group, see if any traction's been going on or anything like that. And then this is how, because I was in that group, one night Whitney and I were discussing this case, okay, how do we move forward?
Where do we start? We don't know where to start.
Where do we start? Yes, especially because this is a little bit different from our typical what we do. We wanted to have the facts. So we went ahead and I reached out to someone, whoever manages that group, because at this point I had no idea. I'm like, I didn't know who it could be. So I messaged that group through Facebook Messenger. I get a response pretty quickly from Jason Watts. He is a family friend and case advocate. And kind of that's how we started. That was, once that we started in communication with him, it went from there.
And he was so supportive of us covering this case. Like from the beginning, he was absolutely, I'd love to talk with you guys. I'd love to go over some things with you guys. And it was just refreshing that, not that we weren't blown off because we're not very big, but just because it's another outlet for us to help Brandon's case, help us get the information out there. So once we knew that he would be open to meeting with us, it like all kind of sunk in really fast that this is happening, and this is much bigger than us researching from behind a screen. And it was just so real. And then we had like a freak out moment. Like, okay, we need to evolve a little bit. We need to evolve a little bit. What are we going to do with this? Where does this take our podcast? Does it change what we had planned to accomplish when we first started this as a hobby? We just kind of realized that, hey, we use this. We kind of broke down why we do this. One, we're obsessed with true crime. But two, the whole reason we chose the Atrocities Around America theme for season 1 was that we both enjoy traveling as well. And so we travel to these horrible cases through behind a screen. So why can't we do it in person? Why can't we physically go to where these things happen and feel the difference in the atmosphere that's there in those locations? So of course we've got big dreams, guys. We were like, listen, we're gonna go.
Always.
Yeah. We dream big. We said, listen, we're gonna go. Which of course opened a whole new set of obstacles. Where do we start with that? Do we just get a hotel, wing it when we get there, try to figure it out, and then, do some GPSing? Do we make a detailed itinerary where we have every second accounted for and we try to meet as many people as possible? We had no clue at all.
Yeah, exactly. No clue. So basically after we had messaged that group on Facebook and Jason Watts was willing to meet with us, we had to make a plan. We had nothing. Yeah. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, you guys know us. Shit show is our thing. Like, we just go with it. And so when we're involving other people, we're involving real lives, we had to get it together. We were going to get it together as much as we could.
Yes.
So essentially we figured out a time that would work for us, would work for Jason, to meet up in San Angelo. That is where Brandon went missing. That's where he lived at the time of his disappearance. We booked a hotel right away, and then we were like, okay, crap, now it's real. We got to get going. We got to start researching, figure out what kind of questions we're going to ask, what we're going to do, what we're going to see. And from there, it really took off.
Yeah. And so y'all know that I moved to the Austin area. Melissa is still in North Texas area. So we are coming from two different directions to San Angelo. This is not where I drove up to Wichita. We drove down together so that we could discuss the case the whole way. We had our own journey. The morning of January 16th, the day we met Jason, came very early. I did not sleep the night before because I was nervous. I honestly, I was scared. Like, I didn't know what to expect from this. I didn't want to look like an idiot, but it's happening. It was too late to back out. We're doing it. So, of course, I woke up.
Meeting a stranger was at the bottom of the list of why I was scared. It was, I was nervous. Nothing to do with meeting a random guy that you've never met before and only talked to on the internet. That is not my MO. And my husband, of course, was very nervous.
As was mine.
For us. Yeah, but we were like, that's not even what I'm concerned with.
It's fine. We're fine. Like, that's not, we're going to meet in a public place, babe. Don't worry. It's fine. We got that under control. We know how to handle that situation. It's the interview that makes me nervous.
Yes, exactly.
So, of course, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which was fine because I had a 4-hour drive ahead of me. Showered, hit the road. As I was leaving Austin, I realized that I'm going to need coffee for this because I'm a coffee drinker in the morning. I usually take my time with my coffee, and I'll drink coffee till lunchtime. Just have a glass. Like I don't do one glass. I do
a glass.
I don't do one cup of coffee. I do a pot of coffee. Okay. So, and I'll just sip on it all morning long. Well, of course, the anxiety got to me, which I'm not an anxious person. I am an extrovert.
I am
all the way. I shouldn't have been this nervous. But of course, I was like, I need all the coffee to get me there. I bought 2 venti Americanos. Like, do y'all know how much caffeine. I said 2 venti Americanos. Horrible idea. But I had both of them drank before I even got to the next town out of Austin. It was a bad idea.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, the drive from Austin to San Angelo is like flat, straight. There's very few turns, very few towns, literally nothing to look at. A lot of flat land. And of course, I'm trying to prepare for this interview with this guy I don't know. So, of course, I throw on some of the more well-known episodes of the Brandon Lawson case, specifically Crawl Space. I know that that's Melissa's go-to for this case as well. They do such a great job of covering everything. I listened to a couple of other ones before I went back over to Crawl Space, but they were just not that great. Nothing was as in-depth as Crawl Space was. It was like they rushed through their episodes because it was a one-episode situation, and I needed more. So I switched back over to Crawl Space. There's 4 or 5 episodes on Brandon's case. I've lost count. I binged them all, and you know when you put them together, they just kind of all become one long episode. Yeah.
And especially if you listen to them more than once, especially that last one. I think there's 5 episodes. The 5th one is definitely one of my favorites. Yes. It has Ledessa in there, even his kids. Like, I love it. Yes. It's one of my faves.
So I listened to it. The coverage that Tim and Lance on Crawl Space provide is like unrivaled. It's just amazing. So I pull into San Angelo as the sun is coming up, and I kind of start paying attention to the terrain around me more. I think a lot of it has to do because as I was listening to these podcasts, they're talking about how dangerous it is out here, which most of Texas is flat. Well, this is like the desert area topography kind of style of Texas. It seems flat, but it's not. There are mesquite trees. There's brush. There's cacti like you've never seen before. The ground isn't
like every
dirt.
2 feet.
Yeah, the ground
like
isn't
every
just
2
dirt.
feet. Well, yeah, it's not.
I think every 2 feet is being very generous. It's like every every foot.
You turn around, there's one, and these are like not just. I mean, you like if you think about like Arizona, and it's just like the one cactus,
the one with the arms.
This is like, this is like bushels of them. Like
like
it's hard to explain. I don't know. Yeah,
on the
but
ground.
Like multiple, like they're all in like it's just like a big old bush of them. I know that's not what they're called, but it's a whole bunch of them in one area. But then that's like every foot or two you have another one of these big old
And not only that, like the ground isn't normal ground. It's not grass. It is not dirt. No. It is this rocky, slippery texture almost. It's just not your normal kind of area. And so we're here in January, and it was 76, 80 degrees when we were there. It was a beautiful day. However, Brandon went missing in August. It is 105. It is triple digits in the desert area of Texas in August. In fact, I even looked it up on the almanac to see what that temperature was the day Brandon went missing, and it was 105 degrees at the maximum temperature, and the minimum temperature was 82. Like, that's still warm. In the middle of the night at 82 degrees, that's still warm.
Yeah, your body doesn't have time to cool off.
Yes.
And those mesquite trees, I'm just going to throw this. This isn't like big trees that give you a lot of shade. This is not like that. These are pokey. These don't give shade maybe a foot. Like, it doesn't.
And even then, you can't get close enough to the tree to sit underneath it for shade because they have poisonous thorns on them. Like, as if the cactus wasn't enough. Let's just throw in some of the worst trees possible.
They're not even like, to me, they're not even like trees. Like,
no,
they're not. They're just like,
they're like pokey bushes.
Tall bushes. Yes. It's weird, you guys. If you've never experienced it, and I have them all in my backyard. And so, like, I thought I knew what I was going down there to experience. I was like, well, it's not going to be that difficult to terrain. That's my backyard. There's mesquite trees everywhere. Like, but no, it is different. So just I had to see it to believe it.
Yeah, so that was my drive. It was serene. It was quiet. It was interesting to start hearing about his case in the vicinity. Yeah. I mean, you pull into the town and you just get this weird feeling over you.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to explain it well, I guess.
I know. I'm the same way. And just like Whitney, like the first couple of hours coming from North Texas down to San Angelo, I'm taking 277. It's flat. There is not even a gas station. And you guys, if you've never been down here, you think I'm exaggerating. I went 2 hours without one gas station. So, there's two different types of people in this world, and this is one good reason about how Whitney and we do so good on podcasts. We come from two completely different places. So I am very, like, if my gas gauge gets to halfway, I'm like, I need to find a gas station. I need to get this filled up.
Yeah.
Especially,
Meanwhile, Whitney likes to play the game of, are we going to make it to the gas station today? Or how much do we trust this Ford telling me that I have 10 miles to empty?
Oh,
am I going to make it those 5 to the gas station?
Cannot do that. I'm stressing at the halfway. Once it gets to a quarter, I'm sweating bullets, and I'm like, there's no gas station. Like, I am literally driving 4 hours to go investigate a missing person case of a guy that ran out of gas, and here I am stressing that I'm not going to find a gas station. It was not good. But yeah, I eventually found one. Just as like day was breaking, I got there. It was fine. Like I'm a baby. Like Whitney said, she is not an anxiety person. I am all of the anxiety about everything. So
that's why we balance out so well. Is that you freak out about everything, yes, and I freak out about nothing.
Yes. I'm like, okay, we need to do this. We need to do this. I'm always, you guys know, I'm the list taker here. So, got gas. Then, so by this point, it's no longer flat. The landscape is no longer flat. I'm kind of going up some hills, down some hills, doing like sharp curves. And I had never been down to San Angelo. I'd been to Abilene, which isn't too far, but this was a whole different terrain. I loved it because I'm so used to the flatness of North Texas that I'm like, holy crap, maybe I should move here, because it gave a little bit of a different climate there. I definitely liked it. So driving down, just like Whitney, I was listening to Crawl Space, the Missing Brandon Lawson, series of 5. It's amazing. They do interviews. They do an interview with Jason Watts. They do an interview with LaDessa, an interview with the brother. If you want an in-depth account of what happened from the family side of it and everything that went down, their opinions, or, kind of like a good timeline, that's the best thing to listen to. Here I am promoting another podcast, but
you have to listen to us first,
great.
Then go to them.
Exactly. It's great. So I knew I was going to be coming up on the town of Bronte, which is the location that Brandon went missing from. So as I'm getting closer, like I had seen a sign way back, like 50 miles to Bronte, and I was like, oh crap. I didn't realize that I would be going through it. I think I called Whitney at this time and was like, I'm going to be going through it. I'm going to try to find the spot.
But also, when she called me, the service out there is so spotty. Like, our call dropped probably 6 times in the 5 minutes that you were trying to call me.
Yes, exactly. Like, it is in the middle of nowhere. You have houses, you have ranches, occasional gas station, really. I mean, they're not even towns that you're going through. It is just emptiness. So, of course, cell phone didn't work. I tried to call her a couple of times. I'm like, I'm going to try to find it. But everything that I had listened to before was like, it's very difficult to find the cross that stands on the side of the road of where he went missing. So I was like, okay. I mean, I don't feel like I'm an amazing observant person, but I was like, I'm going to miss it. I'm not going to be able to find it. So I kind of go through Bronte, and it's on the south side of Bronte is where he went missing. I found, the Stripes gas station where things that happen, we'll tell you about that later. But so I'm outside of Bronte. I'm like, I know it's about 3 to 5 miles outside of this town. So I'm like searching, also while trying to keep my eyes on the road, because you never know if a deer or a cow is going to be out there. And I see it. And like this, and Whitney was saying, it's hard to describe. It's not a feeling like it's eerie or like haunted, but it's just like something heavy washes over you that is heavy, surreal. Like this place changed so many people's lives. So So then I call Whitney again, and I'm like, holy moly, I just seen it. I didn't think I was going to be able to find it. But it's there. It's there. Like, and I kind of have a mild freak out about seeing it. It's just so different than looking on your computer and seeing pictures, or it's so different. But yeah, that was my drive in. So not too long. It's very quick from Bronte to San Angelo. Get into San Angelo, meet up with Whitney. Then we have our meeting with Jason. Get situated. Okay, hey, we already had a plan, but we always of what the questions we were going to ask and kind of our flow, like what we wanted to know.
We had it all planned out. We were like, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to happen. We get there and the shit show shows up and it all went out the window.
It all went out the window. Yep. It did. It went good. It did. So we meet Jason
in the best possible way. It went out the window.
Yes, exactly. Like, we didn't need a plan at that point. Like, things went so natural that, yes, like, we didn't need a plan anymore. Yeah. We didn't need a plan. Exactly. So we meet Jason at, it's a coffee shop called Stagno's, but it also serves food, too. And it's kind of like this eclectic place.
It was super nice. Kitschy. Like, I loved it. It has, like, the cutest little vibe. The owners or general manager, representative, I don't know who it is. We had reached out to them earlier in the week to see if we could possibly reserve their little balcony. They had a little balcony sitting area, and we wanted like kind of a private. Yeah, we wanted a private but public place. You know, those are very conflicting ideas, but we wanted to meet a stranger in public for obvious reasons because safety is important. Not that Jason is a weird guy or anything. It's just you not knowing someone, you want to meet them in a public place. Yeah. So we get there, of course, they beat us there, which we were not late. We were real worried about being late, but they got there like an hour early. So we had to rush down there, met with them. As soon as we walked in the door, they knew who we were. Oh, yes, them. We didn't introduce Dylan. Okay. Yes. So when we got there, we thought we were just meeting with Jason. We didn't know he was bringing Dylan. Dylan is kind of, I guess you can explain what Dylan is, or who Dylan is, rather.
So I'd heard of Dylan. Yeah, I had heard of Dylan because of Crawlspace. Dylan is, I don't know, he lives in San Angelo and Jason doesn't. So Dylan got started with the case just like us. He kind of like wanted to help any way he could. And living in San Angelo, he had access there. He didn't have to take, time off of work or anything. He was able to go get court documents or get public records. So he essentially became like the assistant to Jason. Kind of like he's invested.
He's boots on the ground. He's boots on the ground.
Yes, right there with you. So yeah, so we walk in. They're at the little coffee shop bar. They spot us right away because I was like, I hope I can recognize this dude. That's like always my biggest fear. Again, I'm anxiety ridden. I'm already thinking like, are we gonna recognize him? Like, do we know what he looks
I'm like, it's okay. We'll just talk to everybody there. Are you Jason? Is there a Jason here? Like, that's what Whitney would do.
Yeah. So went up to their little loft area, and I just sat down at a table. So we go up to this little loft area, like balcony kind of thing, and it's got a table. So we sit down, and then we just start chatting. That's how it went.
So yeah, we sit down, and he's like, "Okay, what do you want to know?" And we're like, all questions.
We had a plan.
Yeah, we had a plan. Nope.
Yes.
It was gone. None of us could follow the plan.
Gone.
So we kind of give them how we wanted to go over this case and how we wanted to start Brandon's story. And it all just very natural at conversation. It wasn't an interview anymore. It was, I don't want to say a relationship because that sounds weird, but we formed a bond over this case and we were able to just speak freely and talk about everything that we wanted to know. We learned things we didn't know. We were able to disprove some things we found out about, which we're excited to cover with you guys to kind of put some of the rumors to bed. And it was just amazing. They are just awesome people. Just like I said, just super approachable, not scary at all. I was so nervous.
Sweetest guys.
Yeah, so nervous.
So Southern gentlemen. Yeah,
very much so. I was very stiff. Like I said, no clue what I was doing. My mass comm professor. So I went to college for mass communications. I've done many, many interviews in my life. My mass comm advisor, Dr. Sono, would have been so disappointed in me. I forgot to ask them to say their name and spell it. So like when I was in college, it was drilled into us. First thing you ask when you're on an interview, ask them to say their name and spell it. Then you can't get it wrong on anything in the story or anything on your CGI. You have that information from their mouths. So of course, Whitney didn't do that. But I mean, you can't really mess up Jason Watts. Like that's a pretty good name that you can't really screw up. But I should have asked.
Dylan. But Dylan's name.
Dylan's last name you could screw up, yes. But that's okay. We got to meet him. It was awesome. So like within the first 5 minutes of talking, like it was not an interview, like I said. We were like, listen, tell us what you know. How can we help? Spill the beans. We're here for you. Let's chat. And yes. I don't even know that I would consider them acquaintance at this point. Like I kind of consider them allies in this journey to bring closure for Brandon's family. It's not. Yeah. It's so much more than just, hey, we met at a coffee shop. We spent the entire day with Jason and Dylan. Well, Dylan had to leave midway through the day, but we got to spend the entire day with Jason, and it was refreshing to be with someone so close to the case, and that we are hopefully getting to help.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. It was one thing would be brought up and we would ask a question or be like, clarify this or what about this? And they would it was just perfect banter back and forth. Definitely. It was an experience I'll never forget. And I hope we're able to do more of these in the future, which we do plan on. Yes. But meeting someone like Jason really puts things into perspective, essentially. Like, mm-hmm. He's devoting his life. I mean, he works and he has kids, but a big chunk of his time goes to advocating for Brandon, who is missing still.
Yeah. One of the biggest things we wanted to ask of Jason was we wanted to know more about Brandon as a person. There's so much information out there about Brandon's case, whether it's true or not. There's a lot of case information out there, not about Brandon specifically as a human being, because that's what Brandon is. He's human. So we wanted to know more about that.
Exactly. We just have so many thoughts going through us about like what the type of person Brandon was. Jason kind of gave us an insight of who he was, especially like in high school. That's when Jason knew Brandon the most. So essentially his early life was just like most Texas boys, what they want. It's filled with sports and family. Brandon was a gifted athlete. He was a good student. And most importantly, and I want you all to hear this, he was an amazing human being, which is so much more important than any other aspect. Like, that's what I try to teach my boys. You could excel at this or you can excel at that, but if you're a crappy person, it doesn't make a difference. Don't be a crappy person. Mm-hmm. So, he was just, like, overall just a nice guy. He hung out with everybody, was just... and I've known people like this in my life that just are happy. They're happy-go-lucky. They're just the life of the party, but they're also not willing to step on other people to be that life of the party. Mm-hmm. That's what I can imagine of Brandon. He was a brother. He was a son. He was a social butterfly. In those early years, Brandon stood out among his peers. He wasn't just someone that went under the radar. No, this was a happy teen that stood up for those that were wronged. He not only just didn't bully people, he helped those that were bullied. And Jason describes a time when he was the target of a bully. Jason has come out with this a couple of times. He was a little skinny high schooler and, picked on by various people. God, I hate high school for so many reasons because of that. Or high schoolers, I should say. Yes. So Jason was the target of these bullies. And this is how, one of his first memories of Brandon was when Brandon stepped in to help him after he got pushed into a locker and fell completely down. Brandon came up to him and helped him stand up, gave him some encouraging words that were like, hey, those people never win. Don't let them get you down. And that to me, I literally just had a chill. Because those people don't win. And I have 14 and a 10-year-old, so I'm always about being those bullies out there or being a bully yourself, even if you think you're joking. And my 10-year-old, Whitney will know this, he is a trash talker and I hate it. And I'm constantly no, that's bully behavior. Mm-hmm. Even if you win and some people lose, that's not okay to put that. So we're working on that, because more than anything, I want them to be good people.
Be kind.
And that's what Brandon was. He was a good person. That is something Jason will never forget. And he talks about that a bit, and I wish I would have known him. Like, it just seems like a person that you would just want to know, be friends with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, if you need a visual of Brandon, he's 5'9", 230 pounds. So he's a typical football athlete. He is built like an athlete. Yes. He had icy blue eyes, brown hair, the typical Texas twang in his voice when he talked. You'll hear some sounds of him talking later, and you hear that typical Southern accent.
Yes.
His dad his dad describes him as a friendly guy who never met a stranger. He's outgoing, the kind of guy that'd give you the shirt off his back. He'd help you change a tire on the side of the road if you were broke down, or hold the door open for you. He was chivalrous if you need a word. Mm-hmm. And just like Melissa said, a positive individual and just goofy. He's always joking around, lit up the room, family man. When his dad, so if you, we've just talked about Crawl Space a lot, but if you get on their YouTube page, you will see a Zoom call with Brandon's parents. And it's for his birthday. And when he talks about Brandon, his eyes sparkle. You can tell he was so proud of his son. Just for being his son, like for no particular reason, not for anything that Brandon had ever done, just for being a person. But he also knew that Brandon wasn't perfect, because no one is. Everyone has their demons. Exactly. Everyone makes mistakes. Tim and Lance said it best. They're the hosts of Crawl Space, and they said it best when they visited on the same call when they visited him for his birthday, with Jason and Brandon's parents. They said, just because someone isn't perfect doesn't mean they aren't good people. One quote from that same interview that really stuck with me, that his dad said, was, if you want to know one thing about Brandon, the one thing I can tell you is his heart was bigger than Texas. And even now, I wrote this down 4 different times, and it's making me tear up. But Melissa, don't cry on me, because I will cry.
I'm typically not the crier. I'm anxious, but not a crier. But it's just describing him makes me just picture him, and I just, yeah. Yeah.
So, of course, with that being said, he did have some drug-related aspects to his past. And small town Texas, it's not surprising. I grew up in a very small town. It was riddled with drug problems. It's just part of growing up. You make those choices, and it's not always a good choice, but doesn't make you a bad person. Everyone hones in on the fact that Brandon did drugs in his past, and that they say he was a horrible person, and that he just upped and left his family out of selfishness. But that is not the case. That is definitely not the case.
So I debated whether to go back for a while about if I was going to address this drug issue or not, but I need to. So I'm just going to state very clearly, for any of you that possibly think that you're holier than thou, Brandon was not a perfect person, but he was a good person, which is sometimes better than being there, because there is no perfect people. He deserves, and his case deserves, the same attention, the same consideration as any other missing person out there. Brandon had 4 kids. Okay, think about that. 4. That's a ton of kids. They are growing up now without a father. All right? His longtime girlfriend, Ladessa, I mean, she had to support these 4 kids on her own. I just can't even imagine being in her situation and then having to look at or read this shit that's on the internet. Mm-hmm. Okay? Sorry, I'm a little bit cranky about this, but Brandon had people in this world that loved him dearly. And just because he did or did not use drugs does not mean that we get to write him off as someone that, just up and left. Because that is not the case. All right? Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Yeah. It upset me. I don't know if you listened to Ladessa's interview. She went on, she's like, I can't do it anymore. I can't go on there. She's like, I did for the first few years because I wanted his case out there. But these people are horrible. It is disgusting, the things that they would say to her, say about her kids, say about Brandon. And he is a person missing. He can't stand up for himself. So there is absolutely no reason why you would say anything. Drugs does not even matter. I don't like. To me, that doesn't even matter. Like, I don't even care.
Here's the thing. He was 26 years old. That is so young and so inexperienced with life. And think about, like, I went through college. People experimented in college with drugs and alcohol and whatever, sex, whatever you want to say. People did that. That's part of growing up, is learning from your mistakes. Demons are demons. We all have them. We all have skeletons in our closet. That's not a reason to judge anybody. Now, the conversations we had with Jason and what we learned from those conversations, what we learned from Tim and Lance, what we learned from Dylan, what we learned from all the research we have done, is the common denominator is that he was loved and that he was a good person. The end.
Yes. End of story.
The drugs do not need to be his descriptor, so get off of it. Is my point.
Yes. So I think the drugs possibly, okay, so we'll get into that part. The drugs might play or give clues to what happened that night. But that to me is the only right reason why the drugs should be even brought up.
Yes.
Is because it could have made a difference, or it could have altered some of the events of that night.
Yes.
But that's it.
But that's not his descriptor. His family was his top priority. Like, to the point where the dedication to his family caused him to be on this new journey, embarking on a new job. You know, like, he was starting over. He was doing something that would benefit his family. And that's, honestly, that's the start of this nightmare. That is the very beginning of this nightmare.
Yes. So I'll kind of get into a few events that are leading up to this horrible night. So Brandon was in the process of changing jobs. So he had already resigned, quit from his previous position because he had got a new one, a better one, one making more money, better benefits, which is, you know, what dads do. This is what parents do. My husband's in the process of doing it right now too. He had a decent job, but it's not one that he was fully happy about. So he's just like, okay, we gotta, he wanted to find a new one. He got the new one. All right, so now you have that, you have that week where you're in processing, you're taking your drug test, you're kind of getting ready. So he had already been done. So he's taking a few days off, which I'm right there with you. I would take a few days off in between because you don't usually get any time off when you start a new position. Yeah. So he has a few days off of work in between the jobs. He goes for his drug test. Okay, great. He wasn't worried about it. He had been clean for 6 months, at least 6 months before. So does the drug test, no big deal. Okay,
passes
great.
It. Nails it.
Passes it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. No drugs in his system. So now he's passed it, and now he has a couple days before he starts his new job. So there's a lot going on at this time for a 26-year-old father of 4. I can tell you, I've been married for 15 years, and there's still struggles. There's daily struggles. So you have that, when you're living with another person, it's hard. There are challenges. Not only that, being a parent of 4 kids, that right there alone would cause all the stress in the world. Starting a new job, trying to figure out bills. There's a lot going on in his life at this time. This does not mean that he's like, I'm just going to up and leave. This means, like, it's life, and he knows this. And yeah, there's issues going on. He's got a baby that's sick, but that just means, like, hey, there's hope for the future. He's starting this new job. His baby will eventually get out of being sick. You'll work through today's issues with your significant other, and there'll be new issues tomorrow. But that's life. Mm-hmm. They always say, this, in so many cases that we cover, they're like, they ran away. That's always the MO. How many people do we know that just run away from their lives? I don't know. That's never the case. Maybe very, very rarely. But so during this time also, because Brandon had left a previous job, he did cash out his 401k from that job. So let's get into that just for a moment.
But that previous job, he was only there for like a year. So, like, how much is really in that 401k? Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Especially when you look at taxes.
Taxes, yeah. Taking it out early is going to be a big chunk of it. But then you got to think, okay, he's probably not putting in, like, a huge amount when you have 4 kids to support.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think about it. It is not enough to run away with and start a whole new life and buy a mansion in Tahiti. That doesn't happen. So that rumor right there, we can squash. We're just going to say it's not, he didn't get out that 401k so that he can go and take his less than $1,000 and start this miraculous new life without his 4 kids. That did not happen. They don't know where, they don't even know if this was actually paid out. I don't know if, if you guys know, 401k, getting that out, it's a process. It's not something you can get out. Oh yeah, please write me a check. That's not the case. They don't know if it's ever been released to him, where that check ever went, if there was ever even a check at this point. So he did not take this check to leave. I mean, now if he won the lottery, the circumstances would be completely different. But this is under $1,000 amount. Yeah. He had money in a checking account that he didn't take and has never been used. Mm-hmm. So that right there proves to the world he did not use this money to leave.
To run away.
Obviously, you can tell I'm very passionate about this case because I feel like now I'm just lecturing. Okay, people out there, this is not the case.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I'll get back into my good mood, happy-go-lucky person that I typically am. But just wanted to go with that. That's kind of what led up to the night. Couple of things going on that had been speculated about. And the fact that him and Ledessa were fighting or arguing that night. Who gives a shit? I mean, there's 3 nights a week that I'm upset with my husband. He didn't take out the trash. We argue. We've been married 15 years. There's no chance of divorce, but we argue. Marriages aren't perfect unless you really don't have a marriage.
If you don't fight or argue or banter, whatever you want to call, yes, whatever synonym you would like to use for argue, if you don't have those struggles in your relationship, then there's something wrong with your relationship because neither of you are being honest. Yeah. If
there's no relationship,
there isn't a relationship. That's what makes marriage so difficult, is that you've got to find the common ground and you've got to make the compromises on things to survive.
Exactly.
So.
Wow,
we've turned into a marriage counseling.
I know. Anybody out there, because there are people that think Ledessa had something to do with this.
Oh, God.
You're batshit crazy. There is no chance her with 4 kids was able to commit a murder or make him go missing all on her own. I'm sorry. That's the worst theory out there in the story.
Yeah, all right, you've gone on a rant.
Yeah, I'm done. Okay. I promise.
So that's a little bit of the precursor. The night of August 8th, which this is late in the evening, Ledessa and Brandon have been fighting. That's what we were just talking about. Around 10:30, 11 o'clock, the argument had ensued to the point where Ledessa's like, look, I need you to get out of the house. Brandon calls his dad and says, hey, I'm coming to your house. His dad tries to talk him out of it. Obviously, he was unsuccessful because Brandon does, in fact, leave the home. Ledessa would later... Yeah.
Well, let's... Mm-hmm. His dad lives 2 hours away.
No,
that's
4
why his
hours
dad
away.
Was a little bit more 4 hours. Sorry. His dad lives a ways away. That's why his dad's it's kind of a drive.
Yeah,
maybe
it's late at night.
I would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chill out.
His dad wasn't please don't come over here.
No, yeah. He's calm down. Take a breather.
Yes. It's not worth the gas money.
Yeah, we'll revisit it in a few, revisit it in the morning. Just chill out, right? So yes. Ledessa would later say that the fight was over the fact that she believed Brandon had been using drugs since his clean drug test. He had been sober for the 6 months. He passed the drug test. Now he had those few days off, and there was the issues that he was dealing with personally, and the sick baby. Tensions were high. I'm sure no one was sleeping in the house because of a sick baby. That's usually the case, and you just break. I would need more than a glass of wine. Yeah. I would need more than a bottle of wine, probably, in that situation. So people have their vices. Ledessa believes that he had in fact relapsed. So Brandon, of course, said, hey, I'm going to my dad's house. Deal with it. Kyle's brother would later confirm that he does know that Brandon had been using meth prior to his disappearance. They had Brandon and Kyle's bond were tighter than I feel like most people think your brother should be. They were very, very close. They yes. struggled with the same vices. They struggled with a lot of the same problems in life, and they worked through it together as a family. They were a very tight-knit family, if you haven't figured that out.
Very close.
Yeah.
I would almost say Kyle, they were best friends. Kyle and Brandon were best friends.
Absolutely.
Not just brothers, they were best friends.
Yeah. So 11:53, this is the time that Brandon pulls out of his driveway in San Angelo and heads north towards his dad's house. He takes the only wall charger in the whole house with him, which everyone says this is so strange. This is not a weird thing to me. Yes. Me and my husband fight over chargers at least 3 times a day. Constantly. I mean, at least 3 times a day. Because he gets them and then I steal them. And that's just how it works. And we don't even have teenage kids in the house. If we had kids with other more devices than they currently have, I can imagine. Like, I can't wait for that to happen.
It's hell.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It's hell. I'm going to throw that out there. This does not seem out of the ordinary to me at all. If finding a charger in our house is, and we all have our own, and I swear to you, they're Cricket labeled with our names. That is how crazy we are now with our chargers. Everyone's initials are on their own charger, but we still lose them. Like it's I don't even know how many chargers we have. So this does not seem out of the ordinary.
This is not weird to me.
He took the charger. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. He took it, left. Yep. Now, we don't know what battery level his phone was at when he leaves the house. This will become important later in our case, but we don't know if it was fully charged, if it was 20%, if it was 10%, if it was 80%. We don't know. We just know he took the wall charger. That's 11:53 p.m. At midnight, Ledessa had calmed down a little bit. She calls Brandon's cell and says, hey, you need to come home. Just go to Kyle's house. Please don't go all the way to Crowley where your dad lives. That's just too far away at this late at night. Brandon's like, no, I'm going to my dad's. The end. Get over it. And when we talked to Jason about this, we're like, why? Why would he go to his dad's? He knew it was a long trip.
Yes.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah. Why didn't he go to Kyle? I was like, why didn't he go to Kyle's? Yeah. Kyle lived in the same town.
Yeah. So we just wanted more clarification on why he was so hell-bent on going all the way to his dad's. And Jason said, look, there's some things, as a man, there's some things you just want to talk to your dad about. Okay. And I get that. My family is very tight. We talk about everything, like to the point where there's some things we probably shouldn't talk about as a family. But we talk about it all. And sometimes you just need that comfort of talking to a parent.
Exactly. And the type of parent his dad seems to be from the interviews, like, he just seems to be like, give that good advice, tell you, I don't know. And then maybe he didn't want to stay in the town because he knew he might go after drugs again because of everything that's going on. He might be like, oh, I need to get more. Maybe he's like, if I go to my dad's, I can get clean for the next couple of days and get back on track.
Maybe.
Which, I mean, could be a possibility.
Absolutely. So I do think that his dad is that voice of reason, because I'm sure he talked to Kyle and Kyle was like, no, you don't. Kyle's already tried to talk him out of using drugs since he was clean. You don't need that. But he did it anyway. So he needed a different voice of reason, which happened to be his dad.
Yes.
Now, knowing that there was tensions between Brandon and Ledessa at the time, Brandon's mom, and I'm assuming she knew at this point that Brandon was trying to get to their house, to his mom's house. She asked Kyle to stop by and say, look, you need to check on Ledessa and the kids. Sick baby. They've been in a fight. It's late at night. Yeah. Can you please just swing by there and check on them? Like any good brother would do, he does. And this is around 12:10. Yeah. He swings by, checks on them. All is fine. He then heads home to his girlfriend and their kid. At 12:34 on August 9th, so this is the next day, essentially, because it's after midnight. That's why there's some speculation on what day he went missing. This is after midnight on the 9th. Ledessa has a missed call from Brandon. Another call comes across at 12:36. She also misses that. 12:38 a.m. Kyle receives a call from Brandon saying he had run out of gas. He's still super upset, and he told Kyle, and there's some speculation around this, but this is from Kyle's statement, that Ledessa had some, quote, Mexicans from the neighborhood, end quote, chase him out of the neighborhood, chase him out of town, and that Kyle needed to bring him gas.
Okay, so this is what Kyle said Brandon
Correct.
said. This is not Kyle's interpretation
Correct.
of it. He said, Brandon said this to me. He couldn't really make anything of it. Mm-hmm. He's just like, I don't know, and then moved on.
Correct. With Brandon taking the wall charger out of the house, Ledessa took her phone out to the car, plugged it in the car charger because it was dying. There's been so many arguments about chargers in this case that makes my head spin, because why
Me
are
too.
people so worried about whether or not the charger was charging? So there are many cars, including my own personal car that I have now, that if you plug in a car charger, it will charge your phone without the car running. People are like, there's no way in hell she could charge she could charge her phone with the car not on. Was she leaving it running in the driveway? Was she sitting in the car with it? No, she wasn't. She plugged it in. It charged.
I mean,
move on.
Yes, there are many cars that do that. I've been camping enough times to know, hey, whose car works and whose car doesn't out of my friends. The other thing is, and maybe she left it on. I'll leave mine on. Or if you're warming up your car in the morning, sometimes you turn it on, go back in the house. Like, it's not out of the realm that she had the car on either. But she didn't, because it just charged on its own anyways. But I'm just saying, guys, like,
get off that.
Let's look at
other
picture,
things.
not the stupid little crap.
Get off of it.
She charged her phone out in the car. End of story.
Just get off of it. So Kyle said, okay, I'll bring you gas, but I got to go back to your house, talking about Brandon's house, for a gas can. Then he asked Brandon, are you hallucinating from drugs? Because he had no clue what he meant by the Mexican chasing him. And Brandon insisted that he wasn't hallucinating from the drugs, or that he wasn't even high. He insisted that he wasn't. Now, Brandon's truck had come to an abrupt stop on the side of Highway 277 on the northbound side. This is just outside of Bronte, headed north towards Abilene. It's the exact spot that we went with Jason and Dylan. There's a cross on the side of the road signifying Brandon's disappearance. And like we said before, the moment you step out of your vehicle on the side of the highway, it feels heavy. We followed Jason and Dylan out there, and you pull over off the side of the road, and they cautioned us, don't stop on the shoulder, get in the grass, park in the grass, make sure you're well off of the road, because you do come off around a corner and then you're right there upon it. So it was a dangerous spot to just abruptly stop your vehicle.
Yes. And that road, people are going, what, 70?
75 at least.
The speed limit? 75?
Yeah.
75. And usually more, because it's like out in the middle of nowhere.
And it's straight. Like I think that where he came to an abrupt stop is like the only S-curve for at least, 50 miles probably. It's like straight out there. So people gun it. I mean, it's Texas. We have the most, the highest rate of speed in all of the states of the United States. But
I think we have less deaths than other places, or less issues.
Maybe.
Because I know Florida is one of the highest places.
Maybe.
So, anyways. Yeah. Okay, continue.
So, it's just such a strange ambiance on the side of the highway. It seems so wide open and so closed off all at the same time. You look around and you're like, how could anyone go missing from the side of this highway? Why did his truck suddenly stop? Stop on the side of the road.
Yes.
The tail end of his truck was over the white line. Why did he stop on the side of the road? Why didn't he coast into the ditch? I mean, the ditch, like I said, it is not steep at all.
Yes.
It is flat. We parked in the ditch, along the fence line. We drove all the way across the ditch.
And it's a good amount of space. Like, how many feet do you think it is from that white line all the way to the fence?
I would say at least 4 car widths. Like, you could park 4 cars wide from the white line to the fence line with space to get in and out of the vehicles.
Yeah. I ran out of gas one time in my life because back in the day, I was young. The gas gauge didn't even work. But when you run out of gas, okay, your car dies, whatever, but it kind of coasts over and you can get off of out of traffic and everything. Why was that's a question, not for you, because I know we don't know. But to me, it's weird that his truck was over the white line.
Yes.
When there's that much space.
Yes. I would understand if the ditch was steep and you didn't want to go down into the ditch, but it's flat, so flat. Just that's what boggles my mind, is why did you stop on the road instead of getting into the grass to safety?
I agree.
At 12:40, Kyle calls LaDessa to tell her that Brandon ran out of gas and that he is coming for the gas can. And then at 12:48 a.m., LaDessa misses a third attempt from Brandon. So he's still trying to contact LaDessa, but she doesn't have her phone. And I'm sure she feels horrible about that. In my opinion, she probably thinks that's the biggest mistake of her life, is that, why didn't I just have it in the car? Or why didn't I sit in the car with it? Why didn't I check it more? I would be beating myself up over that, even though it's not her fault by any means.
I mean, and she talks about that in the interview. She's just like we were fighting, and that was the last time I ever saw him. Like, and I didn't have my phone to answer it, and I could not. This is the father of your children. Mm-hmm. This is not like it boggles my mind what she must be feeling, like, and how she had to overcome this, and like everything she had to go through because of this. Oh, yeah. But definitely that guilt would just...
Yeah, I can't imagine the feels. I can't imagine the feels she's going through. And then at 12:50 a.m., Brandon calls 911.
9/2013 0:50 and 38 seconds. 911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. The Staples just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here that got chasing to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
9/2013 0:50 and 38 seconds.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. The Staples just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here that got chasing to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
No, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello?
.911 emergency. Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. The Staples just pushed some guys over. 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 Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here that got chasing to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
No, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Listen to Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet, found on any of the podcast platforms, for part 2 of the Brandon Lawson case.